Okay, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. Today, and actually this week, I'm kind of slowing things back down a little bit. If you've been following me for a little while, you know that I have been working on my fall wardrobe sewing series, and last week I finished my trench coat, which was a big accomplishment for my fall wardrobe. To be honest, I kind of like pushed myself a little bit harder than probably was comfortable. Occasionally, I think that's okay to do that, but I kind of went against my own advice to kind of slow things down because I got to a certain point on the coat and I just really wanted to finish it because I'd worked on that coat over, it was over the course of a month. I was kind of doing a little bit here and there and working on muslins, which I filmed here. But yeah, Friday I was exhausted and I took it really easy this weekend. This week I'm going to be doing a little bit here and there for different projects, and I thought I would just take you along with me for that process. Next week is Thanksgiving. We're going to be visiting family in Mississippi. And so this week I really want to get some things wrapped up, or at least prepped. I'll probably work on a few things while I'm home visiting my family, but it won't be anything too intensive. Because I packed so much into that trench coat video last week, by the time I got to the reveal, I was like, you know what, that's good enough. I didn't want to do any like closing remarks or anything like that. I was just ready to get the video done, and the video was getting kind of long. So I cut a few things out and just decided to kind of recap this week. So a few things that I wanted to talk about with the trench coat. I love how it turned out. It's so comfortable, and I just really feel very cool when I wear it. And I feel like it's going to go with a lot of things in my wardrobe. I like to have things that can be mixed and matched in my wardrobe. I feel like it just makes it easier for me to put things together. It's going to maximize the potential of each garment in my wardrobe. And it's especially true for things like outerwear, accessories, and shoes. I really like those things to be able to be worn with everything in my closet. And this coat, I definitely think will be able to do that. As far as the construction, I did learn a few things that I wanted to share with you guys. I have worked with a stretch woven before, which is what this jacket was made out of. I made it out of a stretch twill. I did have a little bit of warping of some of the seams where I did those flat felled seams, and I think just having that extra stitching on the seams made it a little bit more prone to stretching out. One thing that I might do differently next time is stabilize those seams with some sort of fusible tape or something, maybe even something that washes away, like a Wonder tape. I think the seams will eventually kind of shrink back into place, but anyway, that's something that I might try to do a little differently. And similarly, when I was sewing the buttonholes, I really should have enforced those buttonholes a little bit better on the wrong side of fabric, like maybe put some really stable interfacing. That weft interfacing that I used, I think it's appropriate for this type of jacket, but it does still have a little bit of give to it. And so I think where my buttonholes were, they got a little stretchy. I was definitely figuring things out as I went along. I didn't really know where I was going to put those buttons, but I should have kind of interfaced there below the waist where I ended up putting the buttonholes. Also, something that I cut out of the video last week, just because my video was getting so long, that back flap on the trench coat, the little vent on the back, is hand stitched. And so I think that that might be the best way to do it, but I did try to machine stitch it. I realized quickly that turning it right side out with that part being machine stitched was just not going to work the way that I did it. So I ended up unpicking it. And originally I was going to share that in the video, but it just kind of got a little bit long. So I don't know. It's possible that you can do it on a machine, but I think hand stitching is probably the best way that I've seen so far. But it would be really nice to be able to machine stitch that instead of hand stitch it. Okay, so originally I was thinking that the flap on this ready-to-wear jacket was actually hand stitched. It's not hand stitched, but it is finished differently than the way I finished my coat. So they did machine stitch it. You can tell here that it's machine stitched. Like they machine stitched it right sides together on this side of the flap. And then on this side, they did a really narrow edge stitch to secure that. So, you know, they were able to turn this inside out or right side out, and then they were able to stitch that down. Also, the hem is not bagged the same way that I did my hem. So they did a top stitch along the hem here. I'm assuming that this was left open at the bottom hem. They flipped the jacket right side out, and then they just folded up this edge here and top stitched it in place. So that's another way to do it. And actually it looks really nice. On this fabric, it's really not as easy to see that top stitching there. So it's a little bit more hidden. I think on my jacket there, it just would have been a lot more visible, but that is one way to do it. So anyway, you have options. You could also hand stitch the bottom of the lining closed if you wanted to machine stitch this part. Anyway. Another thing I plan to do with this coat is to tack down the hems at the bottom hem and the sleeves. The way the hemming is done on this jacket and on a lot of jackets where the lining is bagged like that, the hem is just folded under and not stitched down, which I like the look of that. but I think I want to go in and just tack it at the seams, kind of a stitch in the ditch situation, just to keep that hem folded where I want it to, because over time I could see it kind of like falling out a little bit and not being as crisp. And then I also had some questions about whether or not I plan to make this into a future sewing pattern. At the moment, no, I don't plan to make it into a sewing pattern, mainly just because it just feels like such a big job to make that into a sewing pattern. I think I could make it happen if I didn't have anything else going on. So I don't know that I'm going to ever make that into a sewing pattern. I may change my mind about that later down the road. Yeah, it is a pretty big, ambitious project, but then I got to thinking like, oh, I probably should show you guys some sewing pattern ideas for a similar coat. I couldn't really find anything right off the bat. Most of the things would probably need a little bit of like modification, just like around the lapels to make the lapels look similar to what I did. But actually, modifying a lapel is pretty easy, and I did show how I did that in last week's videos. One place that I think would be really helpful to look if you're looking for a pattern that is already made for you that you can use to sew a similar jacket is thefoldline.com. And a lot of you probably already know about this resource. It's such a great reference for so many patterns. I mean, every pattern that you can think of is probably on the fold line. I have my patterns on the fold line I sell patterns through the fold line as well. So I just went on the fold line and looked at their outerwear selection of patterns, and hundreds of patterns came up. So you can definitely find a nice variety of coat patterns through the fold line. A nice thing about the fold line too is that they have a YouTube channel, and they do regular videos where they talk about, pattern selection for different types of things. Like they'll do kind of patterns inspired by TV shows, or they may do, new pattern drops each season and talk about following trends and patterns that might be good for different trends that are coming out. So it's just a really great channel to follow if you don't already follow them. The fold line. I'll put their info in the description down below. So another thing that I talked a little bit about in last week's video was the fact that my table height was really low, and I felt like I kind of wanted to raise it up. So I did. I raised up my table today, actually. You guys had some great suggestions, and the suggestion that came up the most often was to get the bed risers to raise the table, like these little plastic risers that you can use to raise a bed height up. If you want to store stuff under your bed, you can use those on a table. It was actually a really good idea. I raised up the table 6 inches, and I feel like that is a great height for this. One thing that I did was the leg opening on the top of these little risers is pretty wide, and I didn't want the table to be slipping around. So I just kind of shifted the risers to the corner of each table leg so that it basically wouldn't have any room to move back and forth. Feels pretty sturdy. Actually, I'm like shaking it right now, and it's, it feels great. And today, one thing that I need to do is finish a sample for one of the patterns that I'm working on, and I really just need to kind of get some pictures of it for the illustrations. The pattern's pretty much done, but I have a few illustrations that I was kind of having a hard time wrapping my mind around, so I think it would help for me to actually finish making the sample, take some pictures, and then use those to help me with the illustration process. And then the other pattern that I'm working on, the pattern is actually created and graded. I haven't done any of the illustrations or the pattern instructions or anything like that yet, but I need to print that pattern out and make a new sample with the adjustments that I've made to the pattern. I'll probably do that today. Both of these are pretty easy projects. They're not super complicated. And also this week, I would like to start working on the 2 pairs of pants. If you've been watching my fall sewing series, you'll know that I would like to sew a new pair of jeans and a pair of twill pants. So I would like to work on those this week as well. All right, I have been talking for a very, very long time. I have to really edit this down. So anyway, I'm gonna get started on the 2 patterns that I'm working on and make these samples and kind of, get my head around some of the illustrations that I need to do for those, and then we'll see where we stand. Okay. today is Tuesday. It's the next day. I didn't get nearly as much done yesterday as I thought I was going to. Anyhow, I did work on the one pattern and kind of figured some things out about that. This morning I printed out the pattern for the other pattern that I'm working on and cut my fabric, and I'm going to start sewing that all together and just kind of working out any kinks in that pattern. And today it is snowing, winter is here. Feels like a good day to just kind of stay inside and sew, but I am excited because I was able to pull out my puffy coat, the puffy coat that I made a couple years ago. I love that coat. It's just like a warm little hug every time I wear it. It's so, so warm. I did such a good job. Actually, I'm gonna toot my own horn here. I did a really good job making that coat really warm. And if you are interested in making a puffy coat, I'll put a link in the cards up here and down in the description if you wanna, see how I made that jacket. And I also made Huxley a little dog coat to kind of match it. So I also have a video for that and a $5 pattern, which you can get for free. If you sign up for my email list, you'll get a coupon code for $5 off. And I have a few patterns like that in my shop. Today I put his little coat on him when we went outside, and I was just like, it just made me so happy. He looked so cute. And I think he kind of likes being dressed up. I'm just gonna say it. He seemed like he was pretty pleased with himself, even though he was not excited about the snow. He doesn't really like getting his feet wet. So we didn't really take a long walk. He noped right out of that. He was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna spend the rest of this morning just sewing up the sample for the second pattern that I'm working on. I think you guys will like it. Very excited to get this one done. I think it's pretty close. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop talking. I think I'm kind of procrastinating right now. I'm gonna get back to work. I've got all the pieces cut out for this pattern that I'm working on. I'm gonna sew that up really quick, and then maybe I'll take a little break. And if I'm feeling up to it, I might go ahead and cut out some pants. Okay. Okay, so I have finished cutting out all of my green pants pieces. I was gonna cut out the blue jean pants today, but I kind of, these things take forever. It always takes me longer than I think it's gonna take. So I've got my green pants cut out. I've got 2 front legs, 2 back legs, 2 back pockets, and 2 waistbands. And these are gonna have a patch pocket on the front pant leg, and I'm gonna wait to cut that out because I kind of want to get these on and figure out the size of the pocket that I want for these pants just to make sure that I like the scale of that. And anyhow, I'll probably cut the jeans tomorrow. And yeah, right now I'm gonna go make some soup because it's really snowy outside and it's a good soup day. All right, so I think I'm gonna wrap up this week by packing some things for my trip. I do want to work on some pants while I'm at my parents' house. I don't know for sure that I'll work on them, but I kind of want to have them there just in case, because what often happens is when I go home and visit family and I don't have all of my, my things with me, I start thinking about how much I would love to be working on some of those things in my downtime. So if I do have some downtime, I might actually work on some sewing projects. I've got both pairs of my pants cut out and I'll bring those. I'm also going to bring some extra fabric in case I know I'm going to have other pattern pieces that I need to cut. I've also got an assortment of jeans making hardware and notions. So I've got some thread. I really like to use the Gutermann Mara 70, I think is what it's called, thread for sewing jeans. And I've got 3 different colors here. I'll use these for the blue jeans, and then for the green pants, I'll probably just use some regular Gutermann all-purpose polyester thread, and I think that'll be great. I don't really want to have a contrasting thread for those pants. I only have one jeans zipper left, so I may not even be able to sew 2 pairs of pants while I'm home, but if I feel like I can and I'm feeling ambitious, I may just go ahead and order another zipper on wawac.com. They ship really fast, so I could probably get it to my parents' house in a couple of days if I really wanted to. I'm also going to bring some extra interfacing. And I'm also going to bring my handy dandy folding ironing pad that apparently only Hobby Lobby sells. So I don't know why this isn't more popular, but this is great for travel. And I also have a little tiny iron. This is a Duritz travel iron and it is fantastic. I'll bring some trace paper for any kind of pattern making that I need to do on the fly. I'll also bring all of my, cutting tools and that kind of thing. I've got a big bin here. Since we are going to be driving to my parents' house, I've got just like a big storage bin here. I'll just pack that with stuff. That's what I've done in the past. It's nice when we drive because then I can kind of bring some of my sewing stuff with me. And I always prefer to drive. I just like driving. I like driving so much more than flying. I feel like flying should be much more luxurious than it is. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. I don't really like it, so I'm really happy that we're going to be driving this time. I will have a few more projects that I'm going to squeeze in before the end of the year, possibly a studio refresh or a sewing room refresh. I kind of want to do a total reorganization of this entire space. So that might be coming before the end of the year or at the very beginning of next year. So anyway, lots of fun stuff planned. I have no shortage of ideas. I just need more time to execute it all. I want to thank you guys so much for coming here and watching my videos and following along and being so awesome in the comments section and giving me all of your amazing feedback and suggestions. And it's really very appreciated. And yeah, I think that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed today's video and you'd like to see more from me, please be sure to subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Hit that little bell icon. That will be notified when I release new videos in the future. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below this video. All right, I think that's all I have for you today. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Thank you.